What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to break down what's happening to the overall market thus far as we have Joe Biden giving a very important speech. What's going on with more data coming out tomorrow morning that's going to end up shaking the entire markets. What's happening with big earnings, and also what the news is saying about Tesla. But before I break things up, all this information, before I break down some charts and talk about how the market is looking, in my opinion, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Mumu link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Mumu, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very, very soon. Looking at Tesla, we saw this thing try to bounce off this 172 area, trying to push to these higher levels. But once Tesla hit this 180 resistance, I mentioned to everyone that if we broke this and we ended up like maintaining the bullish wedge that was forming, Tesla could have gotten a very, very nice breakout off this setup, but we failed to get that break of 180 today, and Tesla came just short. So the question is, can we end up achieving that for tomorrow, or is Tesla going to likely see a big rug pull? This is going to depend on a lot of different factors, so I want to talk about what these factors are, talk about some news, and then break down some important things about Tesla and these charts. Now, for today, we have Joe Biden giving his State of the Union address, which is going to be very important. Now, say what you want about politics. At the end of the day, politics could be very divisive, but it's still very important to pay attention to these things as a trader and an investor in the stock market because the market held up very nicely amidst this speech. I think that that's the reason why the market started to pump very, very hard. It wasn't solely just Jerome Powell. And when Powell spoke today as well, he didn't really say anything too crazy, just the same old stuff from yesterday, the same script about how the Fed is so committed to doing their job. They have to continue to monitor the situation and things like that. But now, when it comes to Joe Biden, he's going to be giving his State of the Union speech today. Today is Thursday, by the way, at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, in just a couple of hours, what he says is going to be very important. So, we'll see what he ends up saying. However, just know that this could end up affecting the market to some extent, but it's not the biggest thing out there. What else is going to affect the markets is going to be the data coming out for Friday, for tomorrow, which is going to be March 8th, 2024. What data is coming out? An hour before the market opens at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the non-farm payrolls, unemployment numbers coming out, government, manufacturing, and non-farm payrolls also coming out for the month of February, both private and public on the non-farm part. This is going to be very, very important. So the most important thing, in my opinion, however, is going to be this right here, the unemployment rate. And we're going to be watching to see what the data is telling us. I know the data is not fully trustworthy. The numbers could be manipulated. But the truth is, as a trader, I have to accept them. I have to look at what they're showing and how the market may respond to this. If we get a very low unemployment rate again, this could actually help the market out. The market may see this as a very, very bullish signal because it's just straight up fueling not Joe Biden, sorry, Jerome Powell's soft landing narrative. But if the unemployment numbers are very high, this may be a little negative. So we'll just have to wait and see how the market reacts to all of this. So make sure you're prepared, guys. Make sure you're ready for a big move 1 hour before the market opens for tomorrow. Then we have more data coming out, which is all very minor for the rest of the day. That is it for data. Get ready for a very, very big move. Now, when it comes to earnings, we had Broadcom and Costco just announced their earnings. For Costco, they ended up giving us some mixed earnings. So, when it comes to EPS, they beat on EPS with $3.92, but revenue was a slight miss at 58 billion, a little bit below what the expectation was. Despite that, their net income rose quite a bit, and we also saw their revenue still increase overall, but I just want to say it didn't really meet expectations. Their growth, excuse me, in the e-commerce sector was still pretty good, and they increased their number of warehouses to some extent, including many different clubs in the US and China. So good for Costco, relatively decent earnings. We also saw e-commerce sales grow 18%, but their guidance wasn't the strongest, and they did end up missing on revenue slightly, and that was enough to not really impress investors a whole lot. And that's the reason why Costco is down 4% right now. So because they ended up giving us mixed earnings, not giving us the best revenue, we're seeing the share price dropping to some extent. Now, Broadcom also announced its earnings. Basically, they beat on EPS with $10.99. That's the EPS, with net revenue at $11.96 billion, beating the $11.76 billion expectation. However, the Semiconductor Solutions Group posted revenue that fell short of analysts' expectations, which is not the best of news. So some sectors were not as great, similar to Costco, how like some things were good, some things weren't as good. And then on top of this, their guidance was just so-so. They are expecting some good AI growth, which is great, but because of the fact that some sectors weren't as strong, the share price is still a little bit red, kind of flat right now. Now, with that being said, that's it for earnings. For tomorrow, we just have very minor ones like America's Car Mart and just a few others, nothing too crazy. Now, I want to call this out. Now, I don't really have the data on the other website I typically use. It's not really showing tomorrow, so I have to use this. And I am sorry that the numbers are kind of small, but basically, there are over 1.1 million puts to be expiring tomorrow. There are going to be more that open up. That's why I'm saying it's going to be a little harder than this. And then we have about 416.57 thousand of these calls expiring. It may be a little bit higher as well by tomorrow. But overall, the put to call ratio is still 2.64 in favor of puts. The majority of people have puts. Mainly, that's what's affecting the markets. And this does incentivize those market makers to hold things up once again. Implied volatility is also going up quite a bit. So watch for that on the VIX and other things like that. For news involving Tesla, we have some headlines that came out. Kathy Wood and ARK basically bought another 140,000 Tesla shares, and they did reduce their Coinbase position to some extent. That's despite the fact that Adam Jones has cut his price target of Tesla from 345 down to about 320. And this is what it is, guys. That's what ends up happening. I'm sorry, his name is Adam Jonas, not Adam Jones. Adam Jonas from Morgan Stanley made that claim. On top of this, there was some negative news. I went over all of this in my previous videos. I just want to review this. This was a little negative for Tesla. So basically, the German plant has this power outage because of the fires that were going on. And they're expected to have no electricity until March 17th, which is causing Tesla to lose hundreds of millions, if not close to $1 billion. Not the best of news for Tesla, but it is what it is. The share price may have kind of like priced this in kind of quickly. We're going to be watching to see if Tesla tries to base very soon, despite this. On top of this, Rivian has unveiled the R2. The shares are pumping quite a bit, and that's some good news for them. I'm seeing this being compared to Tesla, but at the end of the day, they're both great companies. They both have a lot of potential. Tesla's still way ahead of Rivian and almost any other EV company out there when it comes to AI development. But I'm not trying to trivialize this achievement by Rivian. They're still doing a great job, and I've heard a lot of good things about the R2. So good for them. Now, when it comes to Tesla, Morgan Stanley is giving Tesla an overweight rating. On top of this, financial estimates are still strong. The price price ratio has dropped quite a bit, but we're at this very low point where it could try to bounce a little bit if Tesla starts to show a little bit more life. Also, Fridays do tend to be green only about 49% of the time, so it's kind of 50-50 for Tesla. Watch for volatility around 1 p.m. for Tesla. It's one of the most volatile hours, and also around 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. March is historically a stronger month for Tesla. We've started off very, very weak for March, but Tesla's trying to make a slight comeback. This March could be a very different though, because SPY and the QQQ started off on a very strong note, and there are some signals that do suggest that later on in the next like month or so, there is a risk of some downside. We haven't really started it yet, but just keep that in the back of your minds. Besides that, as far as Tesla goes, I just want to call out that we had about 102 million in volume, well above average, and the short volume is actually starting to drop just a little bit. This is a decent sign. So, what does this all mean for the share price? Let me talk about something very important. I just want to close some of these tabs real quick. For Tesla, Tesla's still showing some life. So, looking at Tesla right here, it's going to be affected a lot by a lot of data that's coming out. There's a possible inverse head and shoulders like structure that could be developing on the chart. So, this could be kind of like a left shoulder. This could be like the head, and there could be like a right shoulder coming before it tries to bounce. That's one possibility, unless it holds up very, very nicely. For resistance, make sure you watch 180. If we break this, we're going to easily push to at least 182.5, if not 184. If you're bearish, you want to see it lose 177.6. If we lose that, a bigger drop is coming to 175 than these lower levels. In my opinion, Tesla looks to me like it might come down a little bit and try to balance and try to push and try to fight 180. It is showing some life that it wants to get up to this imbalance up here. However, guys, I can't say anything with 100% certainty. I can't make very, very objective promises because it depends on all this unemployment data. The unemployment data could also cause the whole market to tank really hard, which could slow Tesla down, or it could cause Tesla to pump. But I want to give you guys my opinion anyways. There's a very good chance it kind of drops a little bit and tries to rebound later on. So we'll wait and see if Tesla could get that break of 180. If we do get that, it could push even higher. But just to be safe, we'll wait and see. I'm telling you guys what is very likely, but once again, it all depends on that data. For SPY, we're holding up very, very nicely. We got this wick down here, which is another liquidity grab, and the chart is still making higher highs and higher lows on a nice uptrend. We could start a little bit weak tomorrow, but then try to rebound. So watch 515 as resistance. 515.8 to 516. If we break the 516s, expect 517.25. If we come back down and end up failing at 515, watch support at 513.5 is critical support. There's some support, I'm sorry, at 514.2, then 513.5 because that was the previous all-time high. And if we lose 513.5, 512 is coming. So that's like the bullish and bearish case. Like bullish cases, we break 516, go up to 517. Bearish cases, we break down all the way down to 512. In my opinion, what's more likely is SPY's on this nice uptrend with Joe Biden about to give a speech. This could actually affect the market to some extent, and the unemployment numbers will matter a whole lot more. But SPY, is still holding up nicely. There's a very good chance it could try to push a little bit more and try to retest this high. There's no sign of this thing kind of reversing just yet. It's still holding up quite well. So that being said, we'll see how well SPY holds up for tomorrow, especially because of all the puts expiring. The QQQ, on the other hand, is showing a bit more weakness on the chart. So on the QQQ, we have a double top-like formation that could be forming, but generally, when you have formations like this, we could come down a little bit more, and then we'll see if we form like a cup and handle or if we continue to sink. Watch. Basically, we have resistance at 445 is going to be resistance. Then above that, we have 446.7 as critical resistance, which is where we rejected off the all-time high. For support, watch 443.5, 442 in these lower levels. Looking at this current setup, this does resemble kind of like a cup and handle, or it could be a double top. So either way, there's like a bullish and a bearish case. To be bullish, you want to see it break past 446.7, start pushing. To be bearish, you want to see it lose 442. In my opinion, from a technical standpoint solely, okay? I know all this data that's coming out is going to affect us, but just based off technicals, they suggest this might come down a little bit lower and retest the 442s, then we might try to bounce off of that, and we'll see what it does after that. But there is a risk of this dropping a little bit more before it tries to make its way back up, and we'll see how the unemployment numbers affect us. So watch for a little drop to 443.5, then maybe even the 442s, and see if we get a bounce after that. Just be a little bit careful on the QQQ. Now, despite that, I just want to call out that, hold on, Nvidia of all things is looking very, very strong as usual. Nvidia is continuing to uptrend very nicely. We're going to be watching this resistance up here. So this thing just pushes and pushes and pushes like there's no tomorrow. We're going to be watching 944 as resistance. If this breaks, 950 is coming next, and we could even push all the way up to 958 if we just continue to break out. But Nvidia is trying to test like these mid levels as our resistance levels, and we'll see how it does from there. Watch support at 940. If we lose 940, there's going to be a risk of this coming all the way back down to 932, followed by 928 to 925, and then 920. Resistance, if we break past 945, we could be pushing all the way up to about 950 plus, and we could just continue to break from there. Overall, Nvidia is on a very, very strong uptrend, looks very, very strong right now. There's no sign of this slowing down, so there's potential for this thing to go all the way up to 950 plus. So it looks bullish, and this could actually help the market hold up a little bit better. On the other hand, what's a little bit weak right now is Aapl. Aapl is still looking very weak to me because it's been continuing to downtrend, breaking below these previous supports. We're currently at 168. Watch resistance at 169 flats, 170 and 170.9. Watch support. Right now, we're just barely holding support around 168.5. If we lose this, 168 flats is coming, 167.5. And if we lose that, a bigger drop is coming all the way down towards 166. In my opinion, the chart looks kind of weak. There's a very good chance that this might kind of pop a little bit, retest 170, then make its way back down. And it's been popping and dropping every single day for many, many days. So look for a little pop and drop as the most likely possibility. Obviously, it depends on the data, but that's what I'm seeing so far on the chart. So that being said, guys, that's it for the main five. Let me just say that when it comes to all this data, I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know what's going to happen, so I can't make any very, very strong promises. But I can tell you the best that I'm doing is just going to try to read the technicals, and we'll see what they end up causing. All right, so I'm going to go over more technicals for these charts, tell you what they're suggesting. They may not always be 100% accurate because of this data, but I want to talk about what they do show, that's very probable for the markets. So for Rivian, the charts on the 4 hour is very, very bullish. And on the daily time frame, I've seen potential for this thing to hit 12.87. If that breaks, we could go all the way up to about 14. If it breaks 14, then we have this gap fill all the way around 15.5. So it looks bullish to me. This thing is trying to break out and push on the daily. There's a good chance that Rivian could push. This could be a nice swing, but the nice entry point was actually earlier, so the entry is not as good at this level. For SoFi is looking a little bit weak. It did come down a little bit towards this 7 area, but I do see some potential for this thing to try to push a little higher. We could see this thing attempt to push towards 7.5 and then just trade sideways. So not super strong, not super weak, but I do see 7.5 coming. We'll see how it reacts to this. This may be very reactive to the unemployment data. For ARM, this looks like it might retest 142, and then we'll see what it does after that because it might just trade kind of sideways, but it is slowly uptrending, so it could try to push a little higher to 142 than 145. But I think it's going to be kind of slow, not the strongest overall. For super micro, this thing is currently pushing to the upwards direction. Watch 1200 as resistance. If we break past this, we could push even higher towards 1250. It looks bullish. It's on a nice uptrend, but we'll have to see if this ends up getting a break. For Palantir is looking a little weak, could retest 25.62, then try to bounce off that. So watch for that very, very carefully. And we'll see how it does after that. So watch and see how support holds up. But I do see 25 as a real possibility. For the IWM Russell 2000, this is on a slight uptrend. We could be trying to push towards this 207.5 area. So it might try to push a little higher. That's the most likely move in terms of technicals. If the unemployment numbers cause a dip, watch 205 as support, watch resistance at 207 and eventually 208. If that breaks, 210 is coming. This is on a nice uptrend. It could push a little higher. The technicals do suggest that, but just to be safe, watch the unemployment numbers. For Microsoft, we're trying to hold around our 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. If we do break out higher, watch 410 as resistance. If that breaks, 414 is going to be coming next. Overall, there is potential for this to push higher. This is holding up quite well. For AMD, in my opinion, is just trading sideways. It could actually dip a little bit, retest 206.5, then come back up and just trade sideways. That's all I'm seeing for the time being. For the VIX is just kind of trading sideways, not really doing much, but there is this gap to fill above, which does suggest there could be a dip coming to the markets. That makes me think that SPY might either pop again and then see some downside next week, or it might just drop as soon as tomorrow. So we'll just have to wait and see. This depends on the unemployment numbers and stuff, but the VIX is starting to look a little bullish. It's starting to actually uptrend slightly. If it pushes a little bit higher, this could slow things down for SPY, so just be careful with that. On the other hand, the dollar is looking kind of weak right now. The reason the dollar is looking weak is because this thing was barely at 102.8. It's still on a very, very big downtrend, and this is actually technically bullish for the markets. If it keeps sinking, our next target is going to be all the way down towards 102 flats, then eventually 101.3. 101.5 and then 100.62. It's looking bearish. We have like a head and shoulders like formation. It's kind of sinking pretty low. And we'll have to see if it tries to bounce off this support. We're actually very close to support at 102.8. But I just want to say it looks kind of weak, and this is actually a bullish signal for the markets. So far, there's no sign of a bounce. Coinbase is looking pretty good. It's starting to consolidate a little bit. I think we might consolidate a bit, retest 245, then come back down and trade sideways. But overall, we're still looking quite bullish. Google is looking pretty decent to me. It may try to push a little bit higher, but just to be safe, you have to see if it holds up. Technicals do show it might try to make its way up to about 137. If we could try to hold above 134.7, we could see 137. There is potential for this to push higher too, but we'll have to just wait and see. For Amazon, this is looking kind of bullish on the 4-hour. If we push a little higher, so watch 175.56 as support. If we bounce off this, we could push higher towards 178 and eventually 180. But I do see some potential for this to play out. But just know it might dip first before we get some kind of bounce. So we might be testing 175.56 and 174.66 down here before we get some kind of bounce. So watch for this support right here, and we'll see how it goes. Meta is also looking like it might retest 508 before it tries to rebound. If it loses 508, it's going to come all the way down towards 502. But overall, it's on a very, very nice uptrend. It's still looking bullish, so it might dip a little bit, then try to bounce just like that of Amazon. So far, so good. With that being said, guys, as for the markets, let me just say that I'm sorry, I'm not really a fortune teller. Once again, who knows what's going to happen with the unemployment numbers? Who knows how they're going to change them this time around? I truly don't know. But from a technical standpoint, the market looks kind of mixed. Some tickers look like they may drop a little bit, such as Aapl. Other tickers like Rivian are looking like they're showing some life. So the market's kind of like all over the place. We'll see how it goes. Tickers like SPY and the QQQ have been pumping very nicely, but they're at some tight resistance levels. So we'll just have to see how we react to the data. I talked about what's the most likely possibilities on all the charts. So please, I hope you guys really appreciate that, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Have a good night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow very, very soon on the next one before the market opens. Don't forget, Joe Biden's about to be giving his State of the Union address in just a couple of hours at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, so get ready for that. We'll see what he ends up saying. This could also affect the market, so be prepared for that. All right, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Tesla to the moon because the long term is still incredibly bright. I hope Tesla tries to break past 180 in the future. We're not ready yet. May dip a little bit at first and try to make another attempt, but we'll see how it goes. All right, that's it for this one. Thank you again, and peace out.